So you want to work with a sponsor for your podcast, but where do you even start? How do you pitch a sponsor? That is what we're going to talk about today on the Podcast Accelerator. In fact, it's part of a much bigger monetization series that we're running for the next few weeks. We've actually got just over 20 episodes coming out about podcast monetization, a big deep dive onto the tactics, the tools, the tips, and really the strategies that you need to be using to monetize your podcast, all right? It is a real deep dive, and it's all based on our ultimate guide to podcast sponsorship, which you can find at captivate.fm/money. Please go and check that out because it really is a big educational deep dive, all right? I'm your host, Mark Asquith. This is the Podcast Accelerator, and I'm, of course, the CEO and co-founder of Rebel Base Media, where we make podcasting technology, including Captivate.fm, the world's only growth-oriented podcast host, where we give you the tools not only to host and distribute your podcast to Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and so on, not only the tools to measure your downloads, but the tools to grow your audience, including things like our one-click sponsor kit, our single subscription link, our curated collections options, and so much more with the marketing tools that we provide. All right, so please go and check out Captivate.fm for your podcast hosting and growth needs. You'll get 7 days free on us. Also, the show is brought to you by Aweber. I use them for my email marketing. I have them for years. As a podcast, you need to be email marketing. If you're not email marketing, believe me, you're leaving revenue opportunities and relationship opportunities on the table, and I don't want you to be doing that. Okay, it's a mistake I made in the early days. I didn't set up my email list early enough. I want you to go and check out Aweber at markasquith.com/Aweber. So, you've tracked down the perfect sponsor, all right? Maybe you're thinking about a fixed price or a CPM model. You have listened to the last episode that I put out about whether you're going to use baked in or dynamic ad insertion. You've kind of got a feel for this, and you're thinking, well, wait a second. I know 2 or 3 sponsors that I could really, really add value to, and my audience would really, really respond to. How do I go about doing that? Well, there are some key do's and don'ts, all right? And the first thing that I want to say with this is I want you to understand we try to make this easy as a podcast hosting provider, all right? We have things like our one-click sponsor kit, where you go into your Captivate podcast hosting dashboard, you click on the marketing section, and you click to download an auto-generated PDF that will give you all your download numbers, give you your audience avatar. It will give you all the information that you need to send a one-sheet sponsor kit off to a potential sponsor, right? Now, this is a big thing. So if you've not played with that already, go and try Captivate.fm for your hosting and check it out, all right? It's very, very important because it just includes everything you need to pitch. So, some do's when it comes to podcast sponsorship pitching, all right? Some things to do. Number one, you've got to remember that as soon as you enter the realm of pitching a sponsor, you become a salesperson. You become a salesperson, all right? And in sales, your job is to make saying yes easy. Okay, you can't give complex answers to questions. You can't convolute things. You have to anticipate the questions that people are going to have and all of the barriers that people are going to have. Well, we don't have the budget. We're not sure about podcasts. Our audience doesn't listen to podcasts. You have to have answers for every one of those, and it has to be backed by data and experience, all right? So when you're creating your sponsor pitch, what I want you to do is think, okay, let's make a list. All of the potential barriers that a sponsor would have. And I want you to get ahead of them so that when you pitch your sponsor in the email that you send or the phone call that you have, you can actually proactively close off all of those no's, all right? All of those barriers. So maybe someone thinks, well, podcast sponsorship's not for us because our audience doesn't listen to podcasts. What do? You make sure that you have the Edison research from Tom and his team over at Edison, and you make sure that you have the data that shows that podcast listening is on the up, and that you have the demographics, and that you have your analytics ready, and you show them this, and you tell them, well, look, actually, the vast majority of people in America between these 2 ages do listen to podcasts. So how can you be sure that your audience doesn't? Are you really telling me that your audience is not in the 70% of Americans that listen to podcasts? You have to have that data, all right? So close the barriers down. The next thing that you have to do is make it really, really easy to get the information. So use the one-click sponsor kit from Captivate, the one-click PDF that we generate. And don't overcomplicate the data. Remember, when you're pitching a sponsor, we've got to make it easy to say yes, not flex our muscles with look at all this data we can provide or how cool our podcast is. Like, they don't really care too much at this point about your story. They're not interested in your background. They don't care how well you've done. All they want to know is, can you provide a return on that investment? And in order to show that, you have to be able to show engagement and numbers, all right? And then what we have to do is tell people exactly what they are getting for their investment. Don't leave it ambiguous. You need to be saying, right, you will get a pre-roll sponsor slot up to 90 seconds long or 60 seconds long or 45 seconds long, whatever you want. You will get inclusion once a week in our email marketing. You will get a shout out on our YouTube channel. You will get a shout out in our online coaching programs, in our Facebook groups. Like, build them a package that is really clearly setting out what they can expect to receive, all right? The last thing that I want you to do is make it really, really clear why you are different to your competitors, because you have competitors now in the podcasting space. Why should they use your podcast versus the others? And the easiest way to stand out is to be able to prove that your audience engages with you, all right? So devise some experiments where you can say, well, I actually ran an experiment where I asked people to just email me with their favorite episode. And guess what? 30% of my people that listen emailed me. That's a really good response rate. So devise some experiments to show the engagement that you can expect on any given campaign, all right? Make it easy. And the things not to do, don't complicate things. Don't tell your story too much. People aren't interested. I'm really sorry, but at pitch stage, people aren't too interested in your entire backstory. You might have done amazingly well, and I'm really proud that you have, but sponsors are really busy. They're being pitched by 30, 40, 50, 100 people every single week, all right? Whether it's podcast sponsorships or other sponsorships. Make it easy to say yes. Don't give them the entire backstory. Also, and I hate to say this, but people do it, don't lie about your numbers. They will blatantly see through this when the engagement that they get back from your campaign doesn't match the perceived numbers. You see this on Instagram. I know a number of entrepreneurs online that buy Instagram followers, and it's very, very clear they've bought their audience because their number of followers does not generate any engagement on their Instagram posts. You know, if you see someone with 103,000 followers on Instagram and they're only getting 26 likes on photos, something doesn't map, all right? And it's the same for you. Don't lie about your numbers, all right? I've seen people do it, okay? Also, last up, try and work with a host that is IAB certified, all right? Captivate is an IAB certified host. That means that we adhere to standards that can be measured and mapped, all right? Some hosts aren't IAB certified. Some of the big hosts aren't IAB certified. That means that their analytics, really, they're just being delivered on their terms, okay? There might not be anything wrong with that, but can you be sure that they're actually measuring them accurately? Okay, so look out for a host that is IAB certified, like Captivate.fm, because and just like all the other IAB certified hosts, we've gone through the auditing process. We can prove our systems are standardized and match expectations. Okay, so please, please, please consider those things. So just some tips and tricks on how to pitch to sponsors, all right? I think it's very important that we all learn how to do this as podcasters and we all become marketers, even when people never really told us that we had to become a marketer to be a podcaster, all right? So take those tips, go and check out captivate.fm/money. That is a big deep dive that we've done on podcast monetization. It's very, very important. Go and check out the other episodes of the Accelerator Show where I deep dive into this. Like I said, we are doing a heck of a lot of content. Deep diving, not just top level stuff, deep diving into the tactics that you can use to monetize your podcast, all right? So check those other episodes out, those other pieces of content. Thanks for joining me. And until the next time, never forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel. Bye-bye.